thank you. But thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Debra Birnbaum. I'm the executive editor of TV and Variety, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here tonight. But you, thank you. But you didn't come here to see me. It's my pleasure to introduce Sasha Alexander, the star of Showtime's Shameless. So please welcome her out to the stage. Hello, lovely. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hi.
So she's got some explaining to do. But let's start at the beginning. Why did you want to join the cast of Shameless?
Well, besides being a big fan of the show and all the fantastic actors on the show and the producers on the show who are top-notch, John Wells and Andrew Stern, Chris Chulak, Nancy Pimentel, all amazing people. I have been on Rizzoli and Isles for the last 5 years, now our 6th season. So I think for any actor, when you're playing the same role, you know, for a long period of time, all you want to do is show different colors. We all have so much inside of us, so many stories to tell, so many colors. And so I just, when the opportunity came up, it was like a perfect way to shed literally one character and go get to do something different.
How much did they tell you about the part before you signed on?
A lot. I initially, when they reached out to me, the concern was whether or not I would do the nudity. And so we spoke a lot about who the character was and you know, what her intentions were, where the storyline was going for the most part. They can, you know, in TV they never really know, but they sort of have an idea. And so we spoke deeply about who she was and what role she played in their world and in Lip's world. And that was really the most telling, because I was there to serve his character and his storyline. So I did know a lot.
And let's ask the nudity question. How comfortable were you with it?
Well, you know, Debra, I come from some European roots, and I grew up going to beaches where everyone was topless, so including my grandma at times. So I don't have an issue with nudity. I have an issue with violence. I have an issue with violence against women. Gore bothers me. Horror bothers me. Those things are hard for me to watch. You know, the devil rising from the dead to come and, you know, kill. So I can't, these kinds of things to me really like psychologically affect me and I'm like scarred from it. But nudity, it's the human body. So I really don't find anything, I wasn't scared of that. That said, that's what I thought until you have to do it. And then you sort of go, oh my goodness, how am I gonna feel? You're just on a set and all of a sudden, you know, you're having to do this choreography that that's rather technical, and yet it has to look very natural and real, and you want it to look sexy and passionate and all the things it's supposed to look. So that was an interesting exercise, and I definitely was scared. I felt the things that I was worried about, I spoke to the producers about, the director about, Chris Chulak. I'd worked with him before, and so I felt very comfortable telling him, you know, what I liked and what I kind of didn't like, and I didn't want it to look, it could be naughty, of course it's going to be, it's shameless, but I guess I just wanted to know I was protected, and I did feel like, you know, they're a really classy group of people, and I felt that even though the show is really risque and provocative in that way, that they would still find a way to make sure that, you know, I was protected.
And talk about working with your scene partner, Jeremy Allen White, in those scenes. How was
He's
it working with him?
so great. I mean, first of all, I was a huge fan of his before coming onto the show. He's so talented. He reminded me of like Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate or Sean Penn in Fast Times at Richmond High. I just thought he was so cool, and all my girlfriends have a crush on him. So I was like super popular while I was shooting the show and when it aired, because everybody just thinks he's really cute, and they kept going, oh, you're so lucky. That's your job. You get to go and like pretend you're having an affair with this young guy. So that was really fun. But he's really talented. He's really connected. He's really in the character. He knows his role. He loves what he does. So I feel like we had an immediate kind of connection in the right way. And he's a gentleman, so it was nice to be able to do these scenes with somebody who you felt was, kind. I have worked with some male actors that are a little bit not as generous, let's say, and they make it a lot about them and not about the woman, and so that can get a little bit uncomfortable, but I feel like Jeremy was really there for me and there for the scene. So that was great. And I was going to say one other thing about him that was that I found very interesting. In the very, very beginning, I wanted him to want me, but to not know anything about me. I was a mystery to him. So, and I had to be. And so I had to scare him a little bit. Intimidate him would be the right word. And so I didn't really talk to him too much. And the first scene that we shot was the scene in the office when he comes to talk to her. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning in San Pedro. Very sexy. I was driving down there going, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're starting with this scene. And every doubt that I had, not doubt, but any kind of anxiety that I had about it was really put to rest immediately, because it's a little bit like doing an action scene. If you're running and you have to have adrenaline, you got to run and have adrenaline. Like, there's no way to fake that. And that's what love scenes are like. Like, you have to just go for it, and you have to own it in a certain way. And I felt like that day, we didn't really speak too much. And, and I liked it that way. It was a good sort of sniffing out of who you are. And I think that helped the scene a lot.
Absolutely. Did you develop then, after that, more chemistry with him?
Yes, for sure. For sure. Then we hung out and had drinks, and then we were fine. Then it was easier. Yeah.
But it's also not just about the sex between the two of them. I mean, I feel like she's got a definitely intellectual attraction to him as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what's interesting. Nothing's ever interesting if it's just the sex. Not to me, at least. You guys might beg to differ. But yes, I think that there's more to it, and that's what's complicated about the relationship. I'm curious to know, I think that Helene sees something in him that has obviously curious enough and strong enough for her to put her job at some point, put her job at risk, which is obviously something you ask, but I think that's a shameless thing. There's a lot of characters that are right on the moral fence, and I like to think that Helene is on that same fence. She's strong and intelligent, but her values and morals are questionable. So yes. Did I answer that?
Sure.
Okay. Kind of. Yeah.
What does she see in him? Does she want to nurture him? I mean, it's more than just, it's sort of repeating my question again, but does she want to further his academic career?
Okay, yes, I will expand on it. Now my thought came to me. Yes, I think what's interesting, one day we were doing a scene that is not in this episode, where the day after, and Lip wakes up with Helene and her husband, and the husband's making crepes or something. And Jeremy said, "This is so weird. I feel like I'm in high school and I spent the night at my girlfriend's house, but you're like her mom and the girlfriend. You're the girlfriend and her mom, like waking up the next day and the parents are making breakfast for you and it's kind of awkward, but you're both people." And so there's the nurturing part of it. I think there's also the part of it of seeing potential in someone and wanting to help guide them. He's the only one in his family that is getting the opportunity to really step out of, what he's been brought up in, and he has this opportunity, and he's smart, and I think she can help him get a job, so I definitely think there is that interest as well. So it's kind of this mentor with privileges.
Fun privileges.
Fun privileges.
And you have to explain that marriage to me. What is going on there?
I don't know. You explain it to me. I don't know, but Michael Riley, who plays the husband, is an actor I've worked with several times before. And I kept asking the casting, who are you going to cast as the husband? It's so important because if he's a creepy guy, then that's tips into a certain way. If he's like, who is this guy? And when I saw his name on the call sheet, I was so happy because Michael is a very funny, interesting, handsome, complicated actor. And he just knew it tonally. I just felt like right in there. He makes me laugh so much during these scenes. I don't know if you saw one of the episodes where he picks up Lip in his little moped, and Lip jumps on the back and has this little, and he has to like hug him. It's just so weird, it's so awkward. And Michael does it just right, and he's so loving. So I think, I think it's gonna be. I think we're gonna find out what it really is. I'm not sure we know yet.
I mean, I love that line where he's like, "Is that my tie?" And he
Yeah.
just goes right past it. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
My tie.
Yeah, and he starts to get jealous. I mean, the husband is definitely, he is feeling that she has feelings for Lip. He's seeing something different in her behavior as well. So what's interesting to me is watching, these two very different people coming together and affecting each other's lives. And that's the most interesting thing for me. As an actor and just as loving stories, I've loved watching Lip's trajectory on the show. He's always in control. He's always the one that says no to the women. And now he's in a situation where there's a woman who is a little bit more in control of the situation.
So I don't want to spoil things for everyone, but, at the end, Lip says he thinks he's falling in love. Do you think that that's a emotion that Helene reciprocates?
I don't know. I don't know yet.
This isn't good for Lip.
I don't know
yet.
I don't know yet. There were some scenes that were cut out of that last episode that would lead me to say that she had strong feelings for him, but she also had boundaries. And so I'd like to see, moving forward, what happens. Like, what would happen if she was in love with him and he was in love with her? I mean, that would be interesting. What would happen?
She does seem very blasé about the whole thing, that she's very comfortable with this in a way.
Yes. She does, and yet it's a big risk for her to take. So I do agree. She seems very comfortable with it, and yet I don't know. I'm not sure how it will be if he starts showing up at her door at midnight and her husband's like, "Listen." So that'll be curious to see.
You're right. I mean, she's very much in control of this. She sets the rules, and he has to sort of follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you will be back next season?
I believe so. I believe so.
We like that, right?
I like that. I'd be thrilled. Yeah. It's fun. It's a really fun show to work on. Everyone's so great. And it's interesting because the show is unique in the sense that it really doesn't have boundaries in the way, you get a script and you don't know where it's going to go. And most of the time in television, they don't want to change. They don't want you to change it too much. I mean, there's a lot of great new television, as we were discussing, that is definitely pushing the boundaries of the rules of TV. But a lot of shows I've been on, it's like, don't change it up too much. And here you get a script and you go, no, they're never going to do that. And then they do. What? So I had a fun conversation with Bill Macy about that because I thought, wow, you never know where you're going and what it's going to be. And that's the exciting thing as an actor, particularly year after year, to be able to be given a piece of material and just have it kind of challenge you in that way and have you sit down and have to figure out how you're going to do it. So I love that. That's fun.
You and Lip have existed in your own kind of bubble. You haven't really interacted with any of the characters. Do you see that coming next season?
Maybe if they get involved more, sure. I could see the family coming to the rescue of leave my brother alone. Maybe.
I want Helene and Fiona in a room
together.
together.
Fiona, I do not want to be in a room with Fiona. She is, Emmy is so amazing in that role. But, when I watch the show, I'm always blown away with Fiona because she's just got such balls. She's just, every time you think she's kind of femme and whatever, she does something off the wall, and it's really cool. So, yeah, I don't know that I'd want a visit from Fiona.
How does Helene compare to some of the other characters you've played?
On other shows.
On other shows?
She doesn't. She doesn't. It's been a real breakthrough for me. And that's how I felt when they called me about the role. It's been a real opportunity to just grow up. I know that sounds weird, because I'm not 25, but sometimes you play roles and there's an emotional glass ceiling. They don't want you to get past it. Don't get too angry, don't be too sexy, don't get too smart, don't be too this. It's just kind of where it exists. Not as much anymore. I think that women in television has just been exploding over the last years, and which is why I'm so happy to be working in it. But there is this idea of sometimes keeping the characters at a certain place, and I feel like this just broke that from me, and it shed, not just Rizzoli and Isles, but even when I was on NCIS or Dawson's, like, they were fantastic shows, but they were shows that definitely lived in a certain specific space. And now I feel like, I'm an adult woman, and I want to play adult roles that are deeper and edgier and more interesting, and I want to go there. And so I feel like this was just the beginning of that. They gave me a new set of, I don't want to say crayons, said that, but kind of like a new set of paint colors to play with, and so I'm grateful for that.
Do you have other roles lined up? Anything that you can talk about?
No, not right now. Not right now. I'm developing a few projects, so I'm developing some stuff, and that's been really my focus. I feel like when our show comes to an end, there's always an end. I really want to think about the kinds of roles I'd like to do next. And so I'm really focusing on that and really trying to develop. I feel like now we're in a world where if you don't sort of find it for yourself, hopefully a lot of really good people that are going to think of you for it, like they did for me on this, because, I'd worked with these producers on Presidio Med, the John Wells team, and they knew me. And so they knew what I think that I was capable of doing a more versatile character. And so they trusted me with it, and it worked out. But yeah, I think it's more just really seeking out those kinds of roles and finding things that mean something to me. Like, I want to do stuff that, I don't know, stays with us. I don't want to say changes the world, because it's not going to change the world, but I want to do things that just mean more to me.
We were talking a little bit backstage about the difference between film and television. Mm-hmm. You want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, do you feel that, there are better roles now happening on television?
Absolutely. For women, there's no question. I was saying to Debra years ago, I had many, film actor friends that would always kind of, snobbishly say, "So why do you do TV?" And I remember kind of going, well, I get work in TV. I love TV. Why would I not do TV? But they just felt, it was less than film in that way, and I never really thought that. I've always believed it's the role. I've done some wonderful films that I love the roles in, and then I've been offered a lot of films that I would never take. I don't care that it's a movie. It's not something that I'd want to put out. So, but now those same actors are calling me saying, "Can you give me a guest spot on the show?" So, times have changed. Television is, just everybody wants to be in it. It's a more stable way to work, and there's so much interesting work being done on TV, which is great.
Of all the roles you've played, do you have one that's your favorite?
I really loved the role that I played on Presidio Med, which was this Dr. Jackie Collette. We only did 13 episodes, but she was just I always look back at her very fondly and wish that it had gone longer so that I could have just hung out with her a little bit more. She was really she was a prodigy, and she was a plastic surgeon, so she was, way too young to be kind of working with the people she was working with, so she had like social issues, but yet she was really, really bright, which is a little similar in some ways to Dr. Isles, who also has social issues, but she's bright, but she's more mature to me than Dr. Collette was. And so it was really fun to work, in a way that you're not really hearing other people's, like you're totally out of tune with other people's real life conversations. There's kind of like an immaturity that was going on, and I just thought that was really fun to be able to do and say whatever was on your mind. And I don't know, I really liked her. It was fun. But I like all of them. I don't really say yes to roles unless I love the character. You know, I find something to love in all of them.
What do you look for in a part? What makes you say yes?
I think you just have to connect to it. I read it. Do I connect to it? Do I understand it? Do I see myself doing it? And then you sort of say, if it's television, do I want to do this for 7 years? If it goes, is this going to allow me to play around and do different things? And if not, if it's a shorter period, then how can I expand? I think now I'm in a phase where it's like, I don't want to take a job if it's not going to grow or step forward or change in some way what I have done before. I just want to do new things. So I think I really have to connect to it. It has to hit some point of my emotional muscles and yeah.
How do you find your way into a character? How do you prepare for a part?
Each character is different, of course. And so I think first it's reading it, and my initial feeling when I read something is always the last feeling that I end up coming around to. I read it, and whatever instinct that I get about the person is usually the one that I want to stick to. But then it's kind of honing that. If I have to do research on the character and what she does for a living, which is what I did with Dr. Isles, I didn't know anything about being a medical examiner. So I went and worked with a medical examiner and did all that I could do with that. Learned as much as I can so that I was very precise about it, and that I understood the mentality of somebody choosing to do that profession. And then it's clothing, it's hair and makeup. With Shameless, with Helene, we wanted to change my look a bit, but not too much. So I ended up, cutting my hair, changing the color of my hair a little bit. There was nothing glamorous about her. There wasn't a lot of makeup or anything like, she's a teacher. So the clothes were very simple, yet I found them much sexier on the screen than they were in real life, which was really interesting because Lynn Paolo, who is the costume designer on Shameless, also does Scandal. She's really, really talented. And so when she picked these things, I thought they were really actually rather simple. And she knew what she was doing, because then I saw the first scene, I went, wow, that looks a lot more, sexier than I thought that it did at the time. So clothes have a big thing to do with it for me. Really, what would we wear, and so it's a little bit of everything.
Did you always want to be an actor?
I think so.
You seem so sad.
It's not sad, but I do think so. When I was 5, I did write down in my kindergarten class, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wrote an actor or a teacher. And so I think I always dreamt about it, but then there was a period where the business of acting was very daunting to me. And I didn't see myself going out every day and pounding the pavement, and I just thought, I'm not gonna do well with this. Like, I'm gonna be unhappy and, feeling rejection all the time. Like, all of it is just really, it just makes me feel like, what kind of a life is that? There's other ways that I can find to enjoy this art and to express myself. I went to film school at USC. I studied directing and producing, and I really expanded my knowledge of film and television. And so I cultivated other parts of my life in hopes to not come back to acting. But then when I graduated, one thing led to another, and then there I was in acting class again, and I thought, I'm going to give myself till I'm 30 to really just do this. And then if I don't get a job and I can't make a living, I'm still young enough to go pursue something else. And you know, in that time, what I learned was that everything in this business is really hard, and you have to do the thing you love the most. You just do, and I love acting the most. So every time I think it's my last job, or I go, oh, I don't know, maybe this is it, so just enjoy it, I find myself falling in love with a character or a piece of material and then being drawn right back into wanting to do it. So I'm grateful to get to do it. And but yeah, it's interesting because it is it's not a business that you have A to B to C, that you know when it's gonna, what the road will be. And that's something you have to just give yourself over to.
How did you get your big break?
Well, I did a lot of theater growing up. So I really did think that acting was theater, but TV and film acting is not doing theater. It's very different. And I had a short film that I made with a friend of mine from USC. It went to Sundance. It got us both signed with an agency. And he got like a 3-picture deal with DreamWorks and Spielberg at the time. So it was fantastic. And I got to go on pilot auditions. And so I was like, wait a minute, yours seems like a much better deal. And so I went out that year and I landed a show called Wasteland for Kevin Williamson. And it was a big deal. It was, the Weinsteins and ABC. And so here I was working for that year, and it was really fun, but a real learning experience. And then John Wells and their team gave me really kind of a really big break with Presidio Med. I'd say that was, but before that I did do a film called Twin Falls, Idaho with the Polish brothers, and that was my first job. It wasn't in television. That was my first film job, and that was really fun. But it's different in film because I feel like you create this character, but it has an end. So there's something different in the experience of knowing there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Where in television, it's unknown. You don't even know the people you're going to be working with. You have one episode to go off of for the character. It's more difficult of a choice to make, for me.
If you had your choice, would you do film or TV or theater, or just pick the best role?
I like them all. I think it's just the role. They're different. You get different satisfactions from them. I like them all. There's something really satisfying about doing television and being able to be connected with people week to week and to play a character that you get to see grow and do different things. I love that. I think it's a really cool thing. And now with even limited series or some of these shows, I think it's really interesting because some characters are more interesting the longer you get to know them or watch them. And so I like it all. But I also I love film. I love knowing what the story is. And you can prepare that character for that particular story, and it ends, which I like as well.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten about acting?
About acting? Have a life outside of it. No, but really have a life outside of it. Do things. Dance, take yoga, meditate, travel, paint. Have a life outside of it. Because as an artist, what are you going to bring if you're only relying on what somebody else wrote? That's a part of it. But how much more can you bring when you have more life experience, when you have experienced heartache and you've experienced pain and you've seen poverty in the world and you've gone to help other people who are in need, and all of these things help put our lives in perspective. And if you have perspective, then you can look at a job or a character, or even when you're on set and you're dealing with the drama and the politics of any set, you can pretty much calibrate yourself into understanding where you fit into it. And that's really healthy. And we all want to be healthy. And we all want to love what we do. So acting is life. And so have a life. Have relationships. Your relationships can't just be the people you meet on set. That's sad, because then it ends and you all go different ways, and then what? You have to have somewhere to go at the end of the day that is a safe place for you. So I think it's important to have a life. That was really good advice because it allowed me to not feel pressure when I decided to have a family and I wanted a family. I didn't feel like, oh my goodness, my career is now was going to stop because I'm having a child. As a matter of fact, I felt like, wow, I'm going to be that much more interesting for it and mature and, so I wasn't afraid of that. Whereas I know a lot of actress friends of mine are afraid of that they will change. And I feel like it's more powerful. It just gives you that much more insight and understanding.
I would imagine it would inform your acting.
Absolutely. I cry like that now. It used to be very difficult for me. I'd sit there and have to do all these things and, conjure up memories of my dad or whatever it was, and it would be all this stuff. And now it's like I think of my kids at any time. That's it. And I'm ready to cry. Like, I want to cry. It's, it's fun to cry now. Now, who has time to cry? I feel like Helen Hunt and, Holly Hunter in broadcast news, always. I say I get my 5 minutes, get it out. So now I love crying on screen. And I really let the tears go. I don't wipe them away anymore. Mm-hmm. It used to be that you just, you wipe them and then you go, well, why? You worked so hard to get them down there. Let them be.
Love it. Well, I want to get to some of your questions. So this one is from Victor. What would you have done differently if you weren't an actress?
Well, maybe years ago it would be teaching something. But now I really like art and I like interior design a lot. I think I would probably do something with that. I like architecture. I like building, like redoing homes. I really do like that. And also producing, which I want to do. Just really focusing on producing projects and working, as an actor, I'm working a very different muscle. And producing is just, really, I love the idea of finding projects and then bringing them to life and putting together the pieces and calling wonderful friends who are art directors and actors and saying you would be amazing in this and having it all come together. I really love that, and I definitely see myself doing more of that in the future.
Scott wants to know if you can share a funny experience on the set.
Funny set experience? Mm-hmm. Oh, there are so many. Can I be naughty? Can I tell you really like dirty ones?
Absolutely.
Okay. A shameless one? Funny, shameless one? Gosh, there's so many funny, shameless ones. I mean, all right, I'll tell you one shameless one. There's another one, don't let me forget. It was on Presidio Med. That was kind of funny. Well, one shameless one was, I would say we were shooting this one love scene, and I had to basically be on top of Jeremy, and my husband's watching from a corner.
Just another day in the office.
Yeah, just another day in the office. And I've literally got the DP on one side in the bed with me, and then, one of his camera assistant on the other side. And I'm not kidding. We're all like very cozy. Poor Jeremy is lying there for 4 hours. I'm getting weird and giddy because it's a very small room and it's hot. And I just started laughing. I couldn't stop laughing because it was just so weird. It's one of those surreal moments where you go, what am I doing for a living? I mean, if you do it quickly, if you shoot it very fast, you sort of forget what happened. But this was taking a while, and I was really happy that Michael Riley was playing the husband in the corner because he was getting a full view of things, and I was so happy it was him because he's so cool and like, whatever about it all. But it was just kind of one of those really weird, funny experiences. So that was a really funny one. And there was one when I did Presidio Med where my character was running into each room and opening doors. See, what I find funny is a lot of times background players make me laugh because if you just observe, and you get to know people when you do shows because it's like the same group, if you just observe what they're doing and then like when they eat and so forth, it makes me laugh. And I know everybody, a lot of them that I work with. But there was a gentleman, and he was like, a 70-year-old Asian man who's hysterical. And this one day I had to be running and opening each door looking for a doctor. So I opened the door, I go, Dr. Birnbaum, are you there? Dr. Birnbaum. And so they had placed different doctors and patients in these rooms. And it's a steady cam on my face. It's running with me. and so they're on me, and then they sort of look in the room quickly. And one of the doors I open, there's a doctor and this gentleman, and he's wearing a gown, and the doctor's lifting his leg like he's giving him a physical, and he's literally naked underneath. So I get like a full frontal, everything. And so I open the door, go, Dr. Bro, oh my God. All right. And so the director goes, what happened? I go, you go look at what's in there. You go take a look at what's happening in there. And what was funny is, cut to a few minutes later, we're just standing around between shots, and that gentleman has a plate of scrambled eggs, like the size, like just chowing away with his gown after I'd seen everything and his scrambled eggs. I was like, this is the funniest business. Like, isn't it funny? Like, I just think I wanted to follow him home. I wanted to see, like, if he had any pets and where he lived and what was going on in his life. Like, that's the stuff that to me is the funniest. Just that, those kind of wacky moments where it reminds you what you do, and I thought that was really funny. That's a set moment. And we have a lot of funny moments in Rizzoli Isles too, with the bodies.
I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot of moments.
Corpse humor.
Corpse humor. There's a lot of that. You can't help it. You just can't help it because you're giddy, and then they're laying there, and I always tickle them. I go, listen, you're going to play dead. You can't move anything. You can't move your eyes. It's very hard not to, like, you sort of have twitches you don't realize you have. But then I always kind of do little bing, bong, bong. Bing, bong, bong. Okay, just kidding. I got it out of the way. Okay, now we're going to do it seriously. And it kind of loosens them up a little bit. I just think it's funny. I don't know.
All right. I think we've got time for one more. I don't know how to follow that. This one is from Ray. How liberating was it playing this character?
I think we answered that,
I
didn't
think
we?
did, yeah, I think we kind of covered that. All right. And from JC. How is it different working for a cable content provider? I think we probably cover this too, but a cable content provider like Showtime versus network.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit in terms of the network is, when you make so many episodes, they definitely have to fit within a certain, within the same box of what you're making. And I think when you make less, you have less boundaries. You can push the envelope more, whether that's with nudity or with language or content. You're going to different places. So I think that's the big difference. I'm curious to see where network is going to continue to go. You probably know better than anyone. I'm curious to see how content is going to shift and change because,
right.
I don't know. I mean, how do you, not that everybody wants to, tune into something that is edgy, but on some level, where do you draw the line? And it's kind of interesting to see. I just wish they would make less. Mm-hmm. That's what I wish. I just wish the network would make less of them because then they could the people on those shows can have a little bit of a life and the quality of them can always stay good. I think it's hard to make so many of them year after year. It becomes a bit of a factory in a way. And that part's not fun.
No, that's not fun. And then the last one comes from Rena. How do you maintain your balance in your career and personal life as an artist? Any tips?
Balance, yeah, I guess it would be having a life, Yeah, I exercise, I dance. If I'm really having a bad day, I dance a lot. I like to travel, I like to step away from the bubble that we live in and, just, I think like anybody else, just find a way to do things that I love to do. And spend time with the people that are really my real life, that know me in and out, and that I can be myself with. I think that's really important because the world that we live in, especially when I step on set, I'm not myself. I'm already in the mind of the character that I'm playing from the moment that I kind of wake up. You know, I start to get into the zone, the emotional space of the character, and I do stay there. I do stay there while I'm working. So, you know, when that's over, you want to be able to shake it off and, you know, reconnect with who you are and then look at the next thing. So, you know, it's a funny business that we're in.
Wise words from a wise woman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.